In case you guys didn't pay attention to the title, this is part 2 of our Final Fantasy VIII episode, so make sure you guys, before you listen to this, go listen to part 1, or else you're going to be totally lost. The last thing we talked about was gameplay, and then now we're moving on to the finer aspects of the game, as I say right at the beginning of this episode, so let's get to it.
From Provo, Utah, this is the Ultimate Final Fantasy Podcast with your hosts, Joseph DeGolier and Caleb Schweitz. This is Ultima Final Fantasy.
So let's go to some of the more finer aspects of the game. I mean, we've talked about story, we've talked about gameplay for a long period of time. We might have to split this episode in half. In fact, I'm almost sure we have to. Let's talk about the design of the game. Okay. So visually, like this game took such a departure from Final Fantasy VII. But once again, the 7 took a departure from the first 6 games. The design of this game is very, very unique as far as its, pre-Final Fantasy X, the unrealistically proportioned characters. I mean, we have realistically, in quotes, proportioned characters. You have very good graphics for the PlayStation 1.
Oh, yeah.
The color palette is, as they said, it was more realism, a lot more bright lights, as opposed to the darkness of 6 and 7, or 5 even. I mean, we haven't seen a bright color palette since Final Fantasy IV.
Yeah.
I'd say, as far as, general color, and they went for some realistic architecture type things. It was still Yoshitaka Amano. No, it wasn't Yoshitaka Amano. It was Nomura, right? Designing the characters?
Yeah, it was Nomura.
Okay. So it's interesting that he did kind of something different for this one. Did you guys like the style? It's kind of one of the things that makes Final Fantasy VIII, quote, the black sheep of the series. It was its design.
I actually did like the design of the 8. I liked that most of the characters, except for Squall, were wearing normal clothes. Although Zell did have the weird face tattoo, which I don't know how he got away with. Yeah.
Or not Mr. T.
He's somebody. You mean Mike Tyson or something?
Tyson.
Yeah.
Why did I call him Mr. T?
Well, I guess you could call Mike Tyson Mr. T. His last name does start with a T.
That's probably what I was going for, yeah. There's a T in there.
It's a stretch, but fine.
Anyway, yeah, so everybody is fairly normally clothed, except for Eddie and Squall, really. The look of the game outside of that is pretty interesting. The gardens they looked cool and weird at the same time. But as far as everything, it was really nice.
So you liked
and
it,
so and the cutscenes were awesome.
Did you prefer it to Final Fantasy VII? Darker feel.
No, I didn't. I liked 7's better, and
so
it was supposed
to
be.
Way.
Yeah, I liked it in a different way. It was. I don't know.
It's just different.
It was different. It was a lighter game, so it wasn't supposed to be as dark like 7 was.
There's a lot less death in Final Fantasy VIII.
There is less death, yeah.
There's no death in Final Fantasy VIII, except for the one sorceress you kill, or 2 sorcerers you kill. Adele and Ultimecia.
Yeah.
And
and some soldiers, because you have to.
There's a lot less biotech engineering with scary shit, and Hojo, just messed up piece of ass.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I just called him a piece of ass. Piece of shit. Hojo, that piece of ass.
He's a piece of ass.
Man, I never
got
thought
a booty
of
on him.
Thought of it that way either. Getting pretty far into this review. Yeah, 7 was a much darker game. One of the stark differences between the two, the graphical quality, where they were able to push the PS1 graphics in Final Fantasy VIII. I know with the pre-rendered backgrounds, they were beautiful in Final Fantasy VII also, but with the not pre-rendered backgrounds or not pre-rendered graphics, there was certainly a lot more detail in the Final Fantasy VIII one.
Yeah.
And it had a different kind of way of shading certain things. It looked, I think it looked a lot better in that respect graphically, but maybe not the colors or the design for me. I think I prefer characters that are more realistically portioned as they are in 10 on and with 8, but I don't think it was a detractor from 7, except maybe the Popeye arms, which of course are not here in Final Fantasy VIII. Caleb Schweiss?
Yeah, I like the look of it. I mean, it does... When I do play 8, I do see why people consider it the black sheep. It doesn't really feel like any of the other games.
Not that we've played so far.
Yeah, not that... Well, I've played most of them.
I think it feels like 10 a little bit more.
Yeah?
Yeah, 10's a brighter game, realistically proportioned characters.
Yeah.
Still kind of the crazy designs of the outfits, but...
Yeah, and that's one thing I do like about 8 that Caleb brought up. They are wearing real clothes. I mean, Squall, yeah, he has a couple belts on, but they're for ammo. They're, ammo belts. They make sense. It's not just a trillion belts on him.
Yeah, but he's got a really short, belly button jacket.
Yeah, he's got the Von vest
it's got
At
fur on
least
it.
he has
He's wearing...
a shirt.
Yeah, he's got the decency to wear a shirt underneath.
I don't know if it is. It's like a wife beater or something.
Maybe it is,
it's
dude.
barely a shirt.
I bet you it is a wife beater underneath. He's like this hick that brought into this game. We never hear his voice. So.
I wear wife beaters, man.
But yeah, I don't mind the look of it. I mean, it's fine. It kind of fits the...
I think it looks good.
Stuff
I think
with the sorceress.
Summons look really good.
The summons do look awesome.
Even though we don't use them at all.
Diablos is awesome.
Yeah.
He's like what I think
Ifrit
of.
design of this one.
Ifrit does look awesome, and they kind of carried that over for 10.
Yeah, they did a lot.
Yeah.
I think the Diablos is like what I think of when I think of his artwork.
They spent so much less money on this game than they did with 7, too. And yet it looks so much better. Of course, it was their first 3D game, I believe, at Square. So, of course, they're putting a bunch of money into, hiring new people and new equipment and all that other shit.
Yeah, I wouldn't classify that as the reason why it's a black sheep, though, the look of it. I don't think so. I mean, it is different, but...
It is the black sheep in comparison to the other PS1 games.
Yeah.
I mean, you got 7, you got 9, they both have, anime... and unrealistically, unrealistically proportioned kind of characters, big heads and all that other shit. I feel like it is the black sheep between those two.
But I mean, it's the black sheep of the series. And 10 and 12, they are very realistic looking.
The real black sheep is 11.
That's true, actually.
Yeah,
it's been proven.
I would agree with that.
That's why you got to vote 12.
Nope, vote 10. 11. I don't care what Caleb Schweiss says. So overall, we all like the design.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was good.
Now we do have a special guest coming on for our next section. Let's talk briefly about the music for a little bit. Let's talk about Nobuo Uematsu's score. Who wants to go first?
I felt that it was easily forgettable for most songs, and if it wasn't a forgettable song, it was awful. Because you would remember it and you would know that it's awful. Like the military theme, the Esthar theme.
Esthar theme is pretty horrible.
Yeah, it's
bad.
Awful. Like it was 30 minutes of that I was playing through, and it was the same horrifying music that will haunt me for the rest of my dreams.
Yeah,
just my dreams and my life. I messed up. Anyway. And then there were good songs though. I didn't mind the main theme for the sorceress. That was pretty good. Yeah. And then when Eyes on Me doesn't have the lyrics, it's okay.
When it's just a piano tune in the background, not too bad.
It's not too bad. And then just the other songs were just forgettable. Everybody says they like the Fisherman's Horizon. I just can't remember it for the life of me, or any other theme. And then the Balamb Garden is horrible. You spend most of your time listening to that goddamn song, and it's not as bad as the Esthar theme.
No,
but the amount of time that you listen to it, it wears on you way faster.
I agree with you with the Balamb Garden theme, dude. When I was playing it, when I lived with my parents, I mean, they would they hated that thing. They were like, oh my gosh, how can you listen to this? And I would just, stop. I would start listening to other music while I was playing Final Fantasy VIII because of the Balamb Garden theme. That theme and the map theme, I don't really care for. Like,
I don't either. The other song
like
that
after Final Fantasy VII's epic music, dun, 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 like it well, it's not really fully orchestrated, but it feels that way. And then 6's fucking amazing map theme.
Yeah.
This is like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, and then their airship theme for like 8 when you get the Ragnarok, I felt like it was way too happy and upbeat for considering like what they were going to do.
Yeah. Well, I actually like that theme. Maybe it doesn't fit the mood, but I like the theme for the Ragnarok. I hate the music out in space. It sounds like a circus.
It does. I was like, what is this? When I first got there, I was like, what?
But I love the fucking... I like the boss battle music, and I like the regular battle music. I think it sounds good. I even like the Laguna battle music. When you're playing as Laguna, I think it's one of the better themes in there.
Yeah, it's okay, but...
I really love the fucking opening piece of the game. In the beginning cutscene, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, when you mean the...
Liberali, or however...
Oh, yeah, when Squall and Cypher are fighting each other in that cutscene.
I'll be waiting here.
Yeah.
And all that other stuff. God, that is a great piece of music.
It was really awesome.
There's that piece, and I love every single theme that plays through Ultimecia's fight. There's like 4 different songs that play there. They're all great.
Yeah, they are pretty good.
They're all really, really great scores. And I think that is something that Final Fantasy has continually done, is having great ending boss themes, except for maybe 10s. What did Spoonie call it? It was like a dog trying to sing Slayer or something like that. It's funny.
He called it the most metal boss fight ever, though.
Oh, that's true. It is. Yeah, he pulls the sword out of his chest.
And then he casts... Oh, no, the other chick casts Megadeth. Never mind.
Yeah, the other person casts Megadeth. Once again, another Megadeth.
Rock to death.
Shh, let's not talk about Megadeth right now. We got a special guest coming on.
So, yeah. I think the music was... I agree with Caleb Craig fully on this. Most of the pieces were either forgettable or poor. Like the Esthar theme, it sounds like squeaky toys and like water droplets. That's what Gammon Stark sent me a message. I was listening to it and I couldn't figure out where to go in that town, and I was like, I need to ask someone else if like this is horrible. And I was like, dude, is this a bad song? And he's like, yeah, it sounds like squeaky toys and water droplets. I'm like, it does. I'm like, fucking maddening. I'm like, God, 30 minutes of this thing in a row? Just...
Ding, 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 ding. I like the sorceress's type of theme, or like the mysterious thing. Shinru, in his review, and we'll get to that in a little bit, he references a piece of music that I actually like. It's the piece of music when you go through the Tomb of the Unknown King. There's a mysterious kind of sound. It kind of plays in a lot of those moments.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, that one's the one that I kept saying reminds me of Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
It plays in the, like, when you're going to the Odin Tower, too, and, like, there's always, like, that one tiny piece.
There's a piece of music in there that sounds like a Beauty and the Beast song?
Yeah, it, like, sounds like you know when he's going to, like, up to the roads? In Beauty and the Beast.
Hold on.
That little piece of music sounds exactly like the same.
Ooh. Fry break.
Someone brought in fries. Okay.
Cold fries.
Thank you.
All right, so, yeah, I mean, I felt like a lot of the music was either bad or forgettable, but the Sorceress theme is one of the best songs in Final Fantasy. It's awesome. It is beyond pro. So that one was really good, and there were some that were okay, but you know, I felt like the music was a definite step down from 6 and 7, maybe a step up from 5.
I'd say even the first 5.
Really, you'd say this is the worst music?
I think so. Now, there's only like 7 pieces of music in the first Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
And, you know, they reuse stuff. Final Fantasy 1 through 5, they reuse a lot of pieces of music. But since 6, we've all had unique scores, and I'd say that this is definitely the step down for Nobuo Uematsu. This one, at least I know a lot of people love this soundtrack, and I know you guys might hate on us for this review, and we all kind of feel the same way. Unfortunately, we're not arguing too much about the score here. We all don't like it. I mean, for the most part, there are some themes I really love. Now, with that in mind, Nobuo Uematsu has consistently had a very unique score that all fits together by itself in the same game. They all fit each other. All the scores kind of fit each other. You know, all the themes from Final Fantasy VIII, it feels like a Final Fantasy VIII theme. It doesn't feel like a theme from another game in the Final Fantasy series.
That's true.
He does, there's a kind of mysterious aspect to Final Fantasy VI. There's an adventurous aspect to Final Fantasy VII. This one, there's some weird aspect. Who knows what it is?
Kind of goes all
like
over the place.
Rock kind of like thing that he's trying out. It all feels like Final Fantasy VIII. So he does have purpose in the singular sound. Now, we don't really care for his sound in this version of this game. Or, excuse me, of this game. I don't really care for anything that he's put out except for, some specific pieces. But he has done that. He has made the theme, the soundtrack to Final Fantasy VIII unique, the soundtrack to 7 unique, the soundtrack to 6 unique.
Yeah.
And it all sort of fits the game. It all gives the game a certain feeling anyway. I don't know. Do you guys feel the same way, or am I just talking out of my ass?
I feel that way too.
Well, I mean, generally you are, but with this, I see where you're coming from. I mean, I could hear one of those forgettable pieces and probably know it's from 8.
Right. 9's is the same way, too. 9 is kind of a very quiet Nobuo Uematsu work. It doesn't have such big themes and, in-your-face kind of stuff that he does. But it all kind of, feels like this, this Scottish hills kind of sound. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Final Fantasy IX,
it does have
this ancient, castles and stuff. It all kind of fits that mood in Final Fantasy IX. So, he continues with that. And with 10, it's got this, watery techno kind of thing to it.
Yeah, it does.
And he kind of continues. I mean, with 2 Xanarkand is probably the only piano piece in there. That's just pure piano that I can remember. So he is doing something interesting with Final Fantasy VIII soundtrack. It's just something I don't really care for myself. And I have played both versions, both the Steam version where, it sounds kind of weird, and the regular PlayStation version. So I do know that there's a tonal difference, and I did just play the Steam version. And I'm pretty sure they haven't updated the soundtrack for the Steam version in 8 yet. They did for 7.
I think they did.
They did for 7, at least. Either way, I've always felt the same about the soundtrack. I always thought it was lacking.
Yeah, I would agree with you there.
But most especially, I'd say, it was lacking in one particular department. The theme song.
Eyes on Me.
Is the worst song in Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the other contender? What Can I Do For You? In Final Fantasy X-2?
That it would be the number 1 contender, I'd say.
Yeah, I think I have you quoted as saying that one was worse.
The chick that's impersonating Yuna in that game is probably trying to ruin her reputation. That's why it's so awful.
Well, I did say it's worse.
Making sense.
Well, 1,000 Words is a way better song.
And I say it's...
That's played later in
Yeah, it's true. I would say it's more annoying to me than Eyes on Me. I don't think it's necessarily a worse song. It's worse. It's something that's more painful for me to know is in a game that I am going to play in a series that I love. But lyrically, not worse. Not after reading the lyrics and trying to...
Why were you trying to sing the song?
I just... Don't worry about it. But it just... I don't know. I just wasn't a fan of it. I mean, I know a lot of our listeners really like the song, and that's fine. You guys can like whatever you want, obviously. We don't necessarily have to agree. You don't have to hate us for it. And some people sometimes in the forums get really uppity when we disagree with them, and I think it's great when we do, because we have Void, who is completely opposite on a lot of our reviews. I'm like, whoa. I didn't think that at all about that Final Fantasy. And that's cool. You know, we're cool with being different, so.
Right. But we all three hate that song like no other motherfucker.
Oh, yeah.
I don't like it now.
I hate it. I hate it so much. But we are going to welcome in a special guest for this next segment. So, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands up. Make sure you press the no camera on there. We gotta stop the behind the scenes. He doesn't want to be seen.
This one?
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome from the great band Megadeth, Dave Mustaine, everybody. Come on in, Dave. All right. Dave Mustaine, welcome to Ultima Final Fantasy Podcast. I am so glad you answered our email.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I was going to do a gig, but this is way bigger.
This is way bigger? Oh, I'm so glad you think that about our podcast.
You know, if I had two other band members that recently quit to join the dark side, actually, I don't even know where they are, but if they wouldn't have left, maybe I would have been doing something, maybe not, but...
Well, they don't matter because they're not in Megadeth anymore, you
Exactly,
know?
they're dead, essentially.
Yeah, so you prepared a little something for us, right?
Yeah, I wrote a little ditty of a song for you guys today.
Okay, and you said you had a process before you got there. What was that?
Well, whenever I sit down to write a song, first of all, I like to come up with the intro riff. I sit there and I'm thinking, well, it's gonna sound something a little like this. You take a squally man, you give him a necklace, a sword that's a gun, and a super hot teacher.
So, that sounds great, Dave Mustaine. Is that how this track sounds?
Yeah, Dave, I mean, that sounds like something else that you've written. No, it's completely new. I mean...
It does sound a little bit like Symphony of Destruction.
Well, maybe.
Okay, so what did you make for us today?
Well, today I have prepared a very special remix of your very favorite song.
Our favorite song?
Yes, in the entire series of Final Fantasy.
Okay, alright, so I'm gonna click on this. We're gonna give it a listen, shall we?
Let's.
That was something special.
Yeah, that was
Truly something else.
good God. Yeah, it was okay.
That was probably the best thing for Megadeth since, like, 2007.
That's
I'm
harsh.
I'm just saying that's how good that song was.
Oh, well, thanks.
That was probably the best rendition of that horrible, horrible song I've ever heard. And it was funny, you used all the correct lyrics.
correct. Yeah, I looked it up, and
The English is all in there.
I mean, initially I was gonna change it to be more metal, but I decided, in respect for the original artist, I would just keep it the same.
It's funny that you have respect for an original artist this time around. That's really interesting, because I know your boots are made for walking thing. You walked all over that cover.
Well, I don't want to talk about that here.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, Dave, I know you got a plane to catch. Thank you so much for driving around the block until we were ready for you. Thank you so much. Give a big hand for Dave Mustaine, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, man. That was sweet. Yeah, no problem.
All right, thank you, Dave. All right, just let him out the door. Okay. All right, see you, man. Thanks.
Later.
You know, it was really cool to have Dave Mustaine in here, I'd say.
Yeah, it's an honor.
It is an honor. I mean, I didn't know he was such a big fan of the show. He loves how we talk about him all the time. We always bring up Megadeth. He says he's gotten hundreds of more sales on his albums since we've been talking about him on our podcast. So that's really cool.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Yeah. Because of you, we got to talk with Dave Mustaine.
It's true. Yeah,
we had to write a song.
Thank you so much. And that song is just fucking sweet. We might even do something with that song in the future. I think that'll be really cool if we did like a video or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be sweet.
Yeah. So we might do that. I'm not sure 100% yet. All right. So let's move on to the game. I can't believe Dave Mustaine showed up here. So the legacy of this game. I mean, we've talked about this on and off throughout this whole thing. It sold 8.15 million copies. I believe the third highest selling Final Fantasy game. It, of course, has numerous amounts of fan fiction, as we found out with our podcast, Super Sexy Swinging Fan Fiction. Even more than 10, which is the second highest selling Final Fantasy game. So it's interesting that the fan community seems to be really big for this game. At least as far as our searches go, that's what we've seen. Whenever we go to Comic-Con, Salt Lake Comic-Con, there's always people dressed up.
There's always a squall.
There is always a squall. Now, there's always a billion clouds. So it's not like they have a one-up on the clouds, but there is always a billion squalls. And so it's interesting to see that kind of legacy in there. I mean, why do you think that this game, we have a lot of good and a lot of bad about it between us. We feel that way about this game. Why do you think it's stuck around so much for fans of the games?
Well, I think a lot of it is, just like you said, it's their first Final Fantasy. It's the first time they played a video game that really blew them away, that actually had a story, and it had characters that did feel like real people. Maybe not real people that I would really want to associate with, but real people nonetheless. And the main character, Squall, I agree with you completely. I think that he is introverted because, that is that's common amongst gamers. A lot of us are, like quieter people. We don't really enjoy the jock scene or anything like that. I mean, we work out, but it's like half-assed, So I feel like that his character was able to be connected to a lot more fans than, some of these other games. So I think that's why it's very memorable. Plus, it does have a realistic look, and for that, you're right, it is the black sheep of the PlayStation era, but it's
anything
the one that looks really
8.
Good. Yeah, well, 9 looks
1 through 9. Honestly.
9 looks weird too.
1 through 9, 8 is just out of place.
Yeah, totally, and I think maybe that's why it stood out, and maybe that's why there's such a strong following for the fan base, and it has sold a ton. So
another thing we forgot to mention was just the cutscenes in this game are just amazing.
They are really good.
Not that we forgot to mention it, but that is something else that I think a lot of people always look up videos for Final Fantasy VIII, and kind of like the anime music video kind of scene. They take a lot of Final Fantasy VIII shit. So
they do. I
feel like it in some way it lives through that too, more than 7, because 7's cutscenes, although they're cool for the time, I mean they don't hold up as nearly as
no, they don't, except for maybe the final scenes. Yeah, maybe. Like with Sephiroth and Cloud, that's a really good scene. Yeah, and it looks awesome still. But I agree with you totally.
I mean, Caleb Craig, I know for from what I've been getting from you, it's been mostly negative tonight. So, like, what do you think about the fanboys in this situation, about the people who really fucking dig this game?
I don't know, because honestly, as much as I dislike this game, I sometimes have this feeling of wanting to play it again. It's got some kind of weird cocaine.
It's got a pull to it.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's got some kind of allure that you just want to play it again, even if you think it's terrible. Like, I mean, I've played it like 10 times at least, and I think it's a piece of shit, to be honest. Like, I don't know. Like,
so harsh.
Well,
some of our listeners are gonna be so mad at you.
I haven't been that bad to it today. I mean, I've been negative, but anyway, so like, I don't know what it is. It could be that like it is one of the most the theme of love in this game is one of the first for around its time, and even now there aren't too many games that are centered on a love theme, so I guess that could be one of the things, like, that's not a common theme for a video game.
Right. We talked about this last night. How
we did,
I was
yeah.
like, what other game has more of a love story? And just off the top of your head, I mean, you searched for more, but off the top of your head, we could think of two. We could think of Shadow of the Colossus, and we could think of Catherine, that probably had probably had better, more full love story centered plots.
Yeah.
Now, there are other love stories in video games, but they're usually like a subplot. This is the plot. Of
It really is more love centered than anything else.
The biggest arc in the story is the love.
Yeah.
The love triangle, I guess.
That is something that's unique, and another thing that, like we said, is basically it's a boss rush mode, so that by itself is a unique experience that is kind of only
not on purpose, but...
Well, no, not really. Well, it kind of is. They force you to exploit it a little bit, if you know.
They more like tease you to. They're like, you see? Now you see what you can do. Do it.
Yeah, and then like that is somewhat of a unique experience. Not many games have, especially RPGs, don't really do that at all. So it maybe just that by itself, and just other
the only other RPGs with really bigger love stories would be maybe Final Fantasy X.
Maybe.
That I know of. Now, I'm not the biggest RPG connoisseur, so...
I'm just talking about generally just gameplay-wise, is like it is a unique experience as far as RPGs and video games go in general. Just with the combination of like going through, usually only playing like against bosses, and then having
Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah, but it's a different type of game.
It's different, yeah.
And then it's also a love-centered game, which is kind of a weird thing. So yeah. I think that would be
unique,
one.
You mean?
It is a unique game, so I think that is one reason that most people come back to it, and that is what that is.
Perhaps another reason they do.
Yeah, dude, I hate the first and second disc, but I have replayed this a million times.
Yeah. There's like... we don't like the music. There's like the Junction system is annoying.
I love the third disc and fourth disc.
But it gets better later in the game. But it's still like, do you really want to play 30 hours just to get to that point again?
I don't ever play 30 hours.
Well, you know what I'm saying though. It's a large chunk of time just to like get to that point.
That's true.
I feel like some of the reason to come back to it is the exploitation of the game itself. Like, to think like, well, I wonder if I could do this any different next time to make it even more sweet. You know, and that is something that is one of the big driving factors for me to play it again at some point. I mean, obviously not anytime soon, because I have other giant Final Fantasy
games to play, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, that I kind of want to play through and see if I can not level Squall up ever. You know, like, you can.
I have one save file that is that way.
So, like...
I haven't leveled them up. I'm in the middle of Disc 3.
It's not something I'll do necessarily for fun. It's just to see a level 7 guy with, like, tiny HP. I'll, like, keep the HP junctions up with the strength on them and just, like, the amusement. I don't think
you can do that, because Ultimecia can do some shit damage.
Oh, she can. But, I mean, You
still have to junction something to him.
The comic relief of seeing this puny dude doing 9999 to, like, a boss would be awesome.
Junction all Ultimas to his strength.
Yeah, and then leave his HP at like 200.
Yeah, definitely something. If you look on Mecha Messiah Joins the Fray, which was one of our episodes where we had Mecha Messiah come on. He did a Tactics You Might Need. We're not going to have one of those this episode, but he did a great Tactics You Might Need on Final Fantasy VIII. So if you guys are looking to beat the shit out of Final Fantasy VIII, go listen to that episode. He explains, where to junction the magic. It's the islands closest to heaven, island closest to hell. It's the furthest east island and the furthest west island on the map.
Yeah,
that's where you go junction.
He also has a written out on the forums.
He does.
It's really nice.
So go check that out. It's a really good guide for Final Fantasy VIII. I think it's time to talk about final verdict on Final Fantasy VIII. Caleb, Craig, I have a feeling yours is mostly negative.
Final verdict?
Yeah.
Didn't we already give it a rating?
No, we didn't. We talked about the story rating. Yeah, we gave it. That was the story. I mean, overall, your experience with the game. What did you think? Don't give it an objective rating. We do rankings here.
Another
ranking out of like all the Final Fantasies.
All that you've beaten is all you can.
We're not going to do the ranking yet. We gotta cap this off first.
Oh, this is a recap of how you felt about the game. Totally.
How you felt about the recap.
Yeah.
This has been a long episode. You got to recap.
I don't know. It has its moments, but a lot drags it down. So, it's mostly negative. It's like, as far as like other RPGs I've played and amongst Final Fantasies, it is a weak game. But there are things that are certainly unique to it. So, I don't know. I would say it's worth at least one playthrough, but only one.
Okay. Schweiss?
Well, I feel like the story wasn't really that great, which is kind of a letdown after 7s. I feel
and 6.
And 6, both great stories, both slightly more motivated final bosses. They had a purpose. I mean, Final Fantasy.
They're both great bad guys.
They're great bad guys, but they're like the motivation isn't necessarily there as strongly as it could be. Final Fantasy to me is like infamous for end bosses that like are just evil. They're just evil. Like that's just what they are. And I'm like, that's soft.
I disagree. I think Sephiroth and Kefka are both. Well, maybe not Kefka, but I think Sephiroth's a very complicated.
I agree with you.
And Kefka's
totally
a very
is.
evil bad guy. Much more evil than like
Sephiroth kind of falls into that.
I'm not throwing Sephiroth under the bus for that. I'm saying that for the most part, these games, the final bosses, they're just bad guys, and that's just something we have to accept, which is hard for me.
It is truth for most of the earlier games.
Yeah, it's true. But, so, I mean, with the game, I would put it at a neutral. I have a neutral feeling towards it. I mean, there are some parts that really bothered me, and some parts, like you said, Disc 3, I agree with you. It's an awesome game after that. Once you get through the shit in the first 2 discs, it turns into really good.
On.
Yeah, Ragnarok On is really good, even though I do dislike the Ragnarok theme as well.
Ragnarok On.
Yeah. So I feel like lukewarm to it. I mean, I don't have the nostalgia to it quite like Joe does, but how do you feel about the game overall?
Well, part of the thing is for me that it is nostalgia. So I know that we were talking about this. I mean, we've finished this game a lot earlier than we've done the review, and maybe not me, but you definitely. And so, as I was hearing you guys talk about it pre-review, I'm like, okay, you guys cannot be so horribly negative on this review thing because we have a lot of listeners who love this game. And I understand why they love this game. So I'm like, guys, stop hurting my feelings. Because, like, I've spent so many hours in the world of Final Fantasy VIII that it has some kind of a connection with me. And it has a lot of connection with a lot of our listeners and a lot of fans of Final Fantasy. And it has a great legacy behind a game that maybe is more of a middle ground Final Fantasy. This time around, I was trying to look at it a little bit more under a microscope as I was playing through the story, most especially. And although I love the gameplay, the story certainly drags along pretty horribly for the first 2 discs.
Yeah, it doesn't really pick
there
up
are
until...
some interesting parts. I like the assassination sequence at the end of Disc 1. But there's not really anything in Disc 2 that I feel is really worth it, except for once again, the end of Disc 2 is pretty cool, I guess. And then, of course, Disc 3 is really good, especially the second half of Disc 3. As far as the storytelling is concerned, unfortunately, also the Junction system is such a convoluted, horrible system, as I said, that it's so exploitable that it makes the game either super easy if you know what you're doing, or super hard if you don't. Like, so hard that you can't beat the game.
Yeah, an imbalance there.
There's so much imbalance. You can't just level up to get out of a sticky situation.
Yeah.
You have to, go back and listen to a 20-minute tutorial. The fact that there are 20-minute tutorials is also something that knocks on the game. However, I do think the characters are well drawn. The second half of Disc 3 is so damn good that it almost makes up for the rest of the story. At least it kind of balances out on how good the game is. The game experience is overall for me. And there is nostalgia to it, so overall I feel like it's a middle ground Final Fantasy that if it was your first Final Fantasy, you'd still be blown away with it. If no one had ever played a Final Fantasy before, and wasn't that familiar with video games like myself, or played this game when they were younger, I think they would have a grand experience playing this game.
I could agree with that.
I think this game, as it was for me, I think would be an epic storytelling experience. Now, if they started with 7 and then moved on to 8, I think it'd be kind of a step down. Of course, I'm not sure. Maybe someone who did play 7 first. I think, was it Mecha Messiah played 7 first? Or did he play 8 first?
I think he played 8 first.
Okay.
It was Void that placed 8 above 7. One of our forum members who has his own website.
He has his own website at greenmushroom.com.
He placed 8 above 7. A lot of it was for the characters.
Okay.
Which we agree with to some extent. I mean, like we said, the characters feel real. I don't really care for any of them, necessarily. I mean, Zell's okay, but he's too annoying. And Squall, I don't know.
All right. So we do have a couple of...
we have to do our...
We have... I know, we'll get to the rankings in a second, but we got... I asked forum members for their reviews, and only one of them listened to me.
Oh.
So you should pull up Void's review on his website. And
my phone's dead.
Pick up some good stuff. Okay.
I don't think we need to worry about Void's review.
Well...
Go check it out.
Go check it out, then.
greenmushroom.com.
He's going to be like, why didn't you check out my review?
Sorry, man. My phone's dead, so...
Okay. All right, so we have Shinru's FF8 review. I asked everybody on the forum to do this, and he's the only one who did it. I'm so disappointed.
It wasn't even us asking you to do our job for us this time. It was something for you guys.
Anyway, to share your opinion about Final Fantasy VIII, and I suggest for Final Fantasy IX, go on the forum right now, write a little review for 9. What did you think about Final Fantasy IX? And so when we get to 9, we have some stuff to pull from. Because, I mean, we're all friends here. We've been friends for a long time. So generally, sometimes when you're around people, you have the same opinions a lot. And I know that's a problem with some of our listeners. Like, you guys agree way too much. We don't really agree that much. We just try to keep a good, friendly atmosphere on the on the podcast. But we do have a Shinru review here. And he says, first off, let's just get what is wrong about the game out of the way first. The battle system, drawing system, junction system, magic, and enemies leveling up with you in the game. Maybe if they worked on it more, it could have been better, but what we got wasn't that good. I think we all agree with that statement.
Okay.
I certainly like the system, but not really in a way that, it was any good for the game.
Yeah.
I basically played the game and never went over level 20 with Squall. True. Drawing magic early on in the game is a chore. Magic is ruined because you never want to use it and waste it. Use the magic booster in the Steam version. However, the fact that they needed a magic booster in the Steam version was another flaw. Junction magic and rearranging it becomes tedious, especially if you switch party members, as you said earlier on. The battle system can easily be broken. Basically, I got the lion heart and kept Squall always low health and would press the circle button constantly until his limit break would trigger, and then I would just kill basically every boss in either 1 to 3 turns of repeating this. Do you feel that way? I don't feel like that's a flaw, necessarily.
I mean, it is breaking the game. It's... Once you do get so overpowered that you can just limit break the shit out of it. But that is just a different strategy of playing. You don't have to play that way. It's just faster. All right, so and also the card game is really hard once rules change, and unless you look up guides, you don't really know what you are doing, and it makes for a very annoying experience.
That's
But you
true.
didn't talk about the cards.
I was playing the card. I didn't play the card games on this round.
I didn't play it either.
I played one time, lost to the sorceress, restarted my game, and was like, all right, fuck that.
So
I'm not
that's
playing
why
this.
we didn't play the. Now I have tried my previous playthrough of the version. I am trying to get every single card. And I hate the fucking card game. I will admit it. And the reason I hate the card game is exactly why Shinru said, when you go from area to area, if you're going in like the wrong order or something, the card game rules will change. And the card game rules that suck ass change really easily. I don't know why. It's like the all rule or whatever, where they take every single one of your cards. Like, fuck that.
Yeah, how are you even supposed to play after that?
I don't know. You just restart the whole game and look up a guide for, how to get there or whatever.
I would probably just reset after every loss.
But the cards can be useful. If you like the card game, you can certainly use the card mod ability.
Yeah, refine
Change
them.
it into really good items. You can get the Lionheart even on disc 1 if you play the cards. I mean, usually the easiest way to get the Lionheart, as we've had a mini-sode on, is in disc 3.
Yeah.
When you have the Ragnarok and just have one of your characters like level 40 or something like that, and you're good. I'd have like Zell level 40 or something like that, and then just so that you can draw from certain enemies that pop up.
Yeah, that's silly that they did that.
So
But all right, so now for the good. That Siren summons, smiley face.
Oh yeah, she's hot.
Zell is awesome. Okay. Laguna is awesome.
Yeah.
Not really for us. Quistis is hot. Yes.
We agree.
Rinoa is beautiful. Yeah.
She's pretty.
Squall is fun for some angsty teens to relate with, and he creates a language out of just using ellipses to speak, lol. Now, one thing I enjoy is that he progresses as a character, and once he really gets his act together, thanks to Rinoa, he changes and becomes a better person. I really like that character development.
I don't think it changed that much.
I think he changed, but not that much. No, and you got to talk into the mic, Caleb.
I think it was a slight change, personally.
Yeah,
Because he was still kind of a dick.
well, he changed from being a closed down person to at least opening up to one person.
Yeah.
So maybe not a big enough change for you guys, but it was a change.
Yeah. All right, so as far as the story goes, I really like the idea of time travel and outer space witches in a sci-fi world. Ragnarok is the coolest airship ever to be in an FF game, he thinks. Find Your Way is a great, creepy, and eerie song.
That's the theme I was talking about. I think it's in the Tomb of the Unknown King.
Yeah, that's a good one. Mashing square during summons is fun because you finally get to do something while summoning, although they are way too long. I did enjoy the idea, though. I did enjoy that, too, when I used to play. I would boost the shit out of
When
stuff.
you used to use the summons.
Yeah, not anymore, but I enjoyed the game's romance theme, and I know lots of fans like myself like the game because of it.
There you go. There's the answer.
That Waltz for the Moon ballroom dance scene was fun, and even the part in outer space where Squall has to catch Rinoa is great, if you know what you're doing. I didn't realize it was first person, and I was like, what the fuck is happening? I thought I was the person in the far distance, and then I disappeared, and I was like, what?
Yeah, you and Caleb are dumb.
It didn't
I
explain
guess so.
It
She
didn't
just
explain
got off
anything.
my screen.
It said catch Rinoa, so you just kind of move around for.
I didn't realize that tiny dot
didn't-
was
I have
Rinoa.
never missed her. I didn't know you could do that.
When that first part happened, I didn't even see her, and so I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
And so the second time I looked for her, and I was like, oh, I saw her, so I was focusing on following her.
And yes, the ending when Eyes on Me plays is fun. I actually like the song, unlike some people. Tongue out face. Overall, I enjoyed the game, but it is the weakest of the PS1 FF games. FF7 and FF9 are much better. So
Well,
that's Shinru's.
we'll find out on FF9. It has certainly been a long time since I've played FF9. I'm the only one here who's beat FF9.
Well, Cody
Way
has,
to be
actually.
on a Final Fantasy podcast, guys. Anyway, I'm just kidding. None of us have beat FF10, too.
I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, we've played FF10.
Except for Caleb. He hasn't beaten.
Except for Caleb.
Couldn't get past Every. Guy's a
I don't
dick.
know why I'm still doing a Dave Mustaine impersonation. He's not even here. I should have done one when he was here.
Yeah,
Seeing how
showed
he
it
liked
I've
it.
off.
done one too, Caleb.
Yeah, seeing
Yeah.
how he enjoyed
I
it.
should be like, hey,
I was
let's
too
make fun of you, Dave Mustaine.
No, I would have been like, so who's is better? In your masterful opinion.
I don't know. He sounded a little weird on the song. It didn't sound like he was speaking to us. It was kind of weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
I must have done something with the voice in the post process of that song, whatever. Anyway, so now we're gonna get to our rankings of the game. You can, of course, look up another review of one of our listeners, Void, his own website, greenmushroom.com. He has a big, lengthy review on Final Fantasy VIII. And he ranked, at the time, I think he ranked Final Fantasy VIII as his favorite, right?
He did.
Yeah, so he ranked 8 above every single other Final Fantasy before it. So 8 to 1, he ranked 8 number 1.
All right, so, well, Caleb, as you know, this is a ranking for only Final Fantasy games that you've beaten. So where would you place Final Fantasy VIII?
So you've beaten...
I've beaten 1, 4, and 5, and 7, and 8 now.
1, 4, 5, 7, and 8. Okay.
That's not too bad.
Would you like a pen to figure out where you want to rank these? Okay. Rankings may change based on episodes. It's for our listeners who are paying attention.
Yeah, mine haven't changed, though. That I know.
Well, in general.
My opinion hasn't changed either.
Okay. Opinions change with time sometimes.
True.
In retrospect, you feel differently about certain things.
Yeah, exactly. That's why you said
This is an organic podcast.
We're going to grow. We're carbon-based life forms here. Except for Caleb. He's a rage bot.
A rage bot?
Yeah.
No idea what you're talking about.
He's
Caleb,
he's a machine.
Caleb, you got a
made
ranking for us?
I'd say 7, 4...
7 as your favorite.
Yeah.
Okay.
8, 5, and 1.
So you're ranking 8 right in the middle of those.
Yeah, right in the middle.
Okay. And do you want me to go or you to go, Schwein?
You can go.
Because I haven't figured out where I want to put it yet. So now I have to trust in my gut as I spew out this information right now. At number 1, still Final Fantasy VI. It's the best Final Fantasy so far that we've played. Number 2, Final Fantasy VII. Almost as good as Final Fantasy VI, like this close. The Shinru stuff kind of like bored me on this fourth playthrough of Final Fantasy VII. But other than that, perfect game almost. Now after that is where it gets kind of difficult. Because I believe I ranked it 5, 4, 2, 3, 1, right? After that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, do I like Final Fantasy V more than Final Fantasy VIII? Or do I like Final Fantasy IV more than Final Fantasy VIII? Because I believe 8's somewhere in the middle in there. So this is going to be difficult for me, but I loved Final Fantasy V this time around. And it had kind of the similar problem with 8, where the story didn't pick up until the last... Well, with 5, it was kind of the last half. And with 8, it was kind of like the last fourth. So I'm going to go ahead and put the next one as number 5. So I'm going to go 6, 7, 5, 8, 4, 2, 3, 1 as my ranking. I feel like it's right in the middle there. There's something about 8 that I think, with the epic space scenes and everything like that, it kind of beats 4 out, even though I did like the character development in 4. And in general, I liked the story of 4, except for maybe the ending was a little bit disappointing for me. But the Mindception, it's kind of similar to Final Fantasy VIII's Mindception, except that it's, not a surprise every single time in Final Fantasy VIII. It's like, oh, there's one big sorceress behind all this. So I am ranking Final Fantasy VIII just slightly above 4 in this situation. Caleb Schweiss, your rankings.
All right. So number 1, I still place Final Fantasy slightly above, or Final Fantasy VII, sorry. Just Final Fantasy. Number 1 is now the best. No, I would place Final Fantasy VII slightly above 6.
Nostalgia.
Nah, I don't think it's nostalgia. It's just, I think it's slightly better. It's very close, though. Then 6, then 5, then 4, then 3. No, I'm kidding. Then 8, then 2, then 3, then 1.
Okay.
And it's tough. I am almost the same. I hate this. I was hoping to have you put 8 higher, and I'd be like, we're different now. But really, it's not that different.
You're still one off.
Yeah, with this and with 7, but. The reason why I put it below 4, although the ending to 8 is better than the ending to 4, the rest of 4 was pretty solid, especially up to that point in the series. It was amazing compared to the first 3. Just amazing. Even though there was the stupid shit with everyone's sacrifice was, oh, just kidding, we're all fine. Oh, it's okay. Except for the one guy I care about. But even with that, I still felt that the stuff with Cecil and the stuff with Kane was cool. And it was cool enough and solid enough to place it just above 8.
Okay.
So.
All right, well, I respect your opinion. I respect yours too, Caleb Craig. And I'm sure people will have their own rankings on this on our forums. And it would be interesting to see what they think as we go through these Final Fantasies, what their rankings are.
Do we have a favorites tab? We should. We should have a folder.
Yeah, maybe. Nah, I don't think we need a folder for that. They can put it wherever they want. They can put it in random or whatever. I have too many folders in that forum anyway.
There's a ton, yeah.
Yeah.
Check it out.
So yeah, guys, for our next big review, we're gonna aim for 1 month to beat Final Fantasy IX, which is a short time for us. I mean, since the NES games, that is a short time. So we're gonna aim for it. I'm not sure. I do want to do the extra stuff. There's not as much extra stuff in Final Fantasy IX. It mostly revolves around like a chocobo kind of game puzzle thing.
Yeah.
Where you get like a lot of cool items, and it's a really long quest, but it's only like one big side quest.
Didn't we beat Final Fantasy II in a week? I think we did, because we
beat it in 2 weeks, but we started the podcast a week late after we beat 1.
Oh, okay.
So we beat Final Fantasy II in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was a lot less than some of these later.
So yeah, but there's also a lot less. Well,
game.
Final Fantasy II, I think we were about 20 hours in there.
Yeah, I was like
so it is pretty long.
21 or 22.
I did have to restart 8. I know this is probably the biggest gap between games. Not episode-wise, though. There's a lot of episodes between 5 and 6, and between 4 and 5.
Well, that's because we had
big months. We had a lot of mini-shows.
I was wrong when I said that it was absolutely the longest, because 5 took us a while, too.
Yeah, 5.
It took a while on 5.
The gap between 5 and 4 is pretty big. But we're generally within the 1 to 2 month range.
Yeah.
So this is okay. We're going to try to aim for 1 month on Final Fantasy IX. You guys, I want you guys to play along with us and then give us your reviews under the Final Fantasy IX tab in our forums. Guys, you don't even have to register to be a forum member. You can register as a guest and put down stuff.
Yeah, we've had great
for our
guests.
listeners out there. So ultimafinalfantasy.boards.net. Just go in there. Yeah, okay, what was the name of the...
Tranny Balls Deep was
Balls Deep. Okay, is that a member of our forums
no,
that just
guest.
went in as a guest under Tranny Balls Deep?
I think I know who it is. I think it's Christian.
He said it wasn't him, though.
He said it wasn't him, but I think he's lying
Okay,
to me.
whoever that was, let us know who you are.
Post again if you hear this.
Yeah, Tranny Balls Deep, post.
It's an awesome name.
All right, we got some Final Fantasy VIII specific questions we got to go to from Void and from Shinru. So, let's get to the question segment.
Yeah, let's.
Questions for us. We would like to hear from you. You to forums. Contact us on Twitter. Get on and ask your questions. We'll answer them within a week. This is the question segment. Ask and you will receive.
Okay, so our first question I'm going to ask, we only got 2 people asking these questions. This one's from Void. In my last playthrough of Final Fantasy VIII, I only summoned a GF once the entire game. I found it much easier to just optimize the junction system and ignore summoning GFs while in battle. So I have 2 questions for you. Did you find yourself using the GF command often in battle? And I believe we answered this. The answer is no.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. No. Now, the second part of this question we can talk about a little bit more. Who was your favorite GF?
Diablos. Purely for the ability to not run into enemies.
Okay.
And he looks sweet.
For this one, I really liked Bahamut. And also Diablos. Diablos was sweet.
Okay.
His artwork is fantastic.
I think we all agree that the Diablos thing is pretty awesome. Like the dark kind of red against the purple, and like it all looks really like this epic kind of look to it. And the battle with him is really sweet. Now there's a lot of reasons why I would put Diablos as my favorite. Also, with you, the Encounter None, I'd probably normally answer that, but you already answered Diablos, so I feel like it's off of my table to to even say that.
If it's your favorite, it's
Now,
your favorite.
I do remember when we didn't have internet at my house and there was Shiva. Shiva was a good-looking gal. Let's just say she had a nice body.
Over Quistis, though?
But then I got Siren.
Yeah.
And Siren was pretty much naked. So, now in terms of visual, in that direction, I'm going to go with Siren. Siren's a beautiful woman. Or thing, or a siren. She's a siren. So I do like Siren. She does turn me on a little bit as a GF. Now, in terms of design, I do love Diablos. I think almost tied with Diablos. I do like Ifrit quite a bit. I think Ifrit's design is pretty sweet.
I think Alexander's design is really sweet, too.
The castle thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty cool, too.
I never even used him in 8.
No.
I know what Alexander looks like, though. And I normally just am like,
Okay, so we're going to go through the void questions. After completing the game, how did you feel about the Junction system? Did you guys break it in any of the ways that you can, or did you try to play the game without abusing it?
broke.
We all broke the Junction system as much as we could. There's not really a way to play the game easily without doing that. Yeah. If you try to play the game normally, the game becomes probably the hardest Final Fantasy in the goddamn series, except for maybe 11. As from what I could see, the enemies are just sick in 11 if you're not leveled up to a point where you can take care of them. So except on my first playthrough, I'd say, except on my first, 3 or 4 playthroughs, I'd say always exploit the Junction system. And I don't know why you wouldn't unless you're willing to level up to level 99. That would be the only, unless you're a completionist, that would be the only option.
Yeah.
Only decent option.
Yeah, and I kind of am a completionist, but I never really need to level up to 99. I mean, I did it in 12, but that's because I needed it.
In most Final Fantasy games, there tend to be parts that really suck me in and keep me playing. The pacing is just perfect, and inspires me to continually make progress. There are also parts of each game that seem to drag much longer than they should. There are parts that often cause me to lose my momentum, or just put the game down for days at a time. In your playthrough of Final Fantasy VIII, which sections of the game were the best paced, and which were the worst paced? This is an interesting question.
What do you think, Craig?
Everything was kind of slow, like we said, up until the end of Disc 3. So, pretty much that entire thing. Would
you ever put the game down in any of those spots, though?
No, I really wanted to just plow through it. The first disc especially, it's kind of hard to get through. So
you were just trying to get past the slow spots. It's not necessarily that you would, as a casual player, just pick up Final Fantasy VIII and then stop. There's no reason to actually stop. The only reason I've ever actually stopped playing a game was if I was stuck on a boss and then come back to it later, because that always seems to miraculously allow you to beat that boss.
Except for Evray.
I didn't get a second chance to fight Evray, unfortunately. So
what about the Judge Geese?
Oh, I did beat Geese.
You did?
After a while. That game frustrated me. Put it down, came back, beat Geese. It's a good feeling.
Yep, just to get stuck on the giant spider thing. But still. So you feel basically the same, that there was no nothing that really necessarily... It wasn't necessarily quick, but it was not something that made you want to stop playing.
No, I think it was paced okay, I guess. I never felt like it was super, super laggy. The end, though, did seem to speed up, I'd say.
Okay. I feel like the beginning of Disc 2.
Oh, yeah.
When you go back to the Laguna... oh, no, I'm thinking of a different part. Am I thinking of Disc 2?
Which one? Which part is it?
Where you're in Lunatic Pandora.
Where you're Laguna and you are now security for the city.
Oh, for the little town?
Yeah, or the town.
Yeah.
I don't think that's...
It's a city out here, I'm just kidding.
I think that is Disc 2. Is that
the opening of Disc 3?
Maybe.
I think it's the opening of Disc 3. That part dragged.
Yeah. It did.
That part dragged.
Most of the dream sequences kind of do.
Probably. Anything with Laguna, yeah, it kind of drags. I can't believe there's a part where he falls asleep talking to the one singer that he's been interested in forever. Just a ridiculous
We were just talking
concept.
all night. And I fell asleep.
Yeah, he was just talking. She wasn't even talking.
She was bored to death.
But yet she's the one who didn't go to sleep. Certainly the Laguna parts, those are parts I'd be like, God damn, Laguna again, and then I might think about putting it down just because I don't really care for those sequences.
Yeah, didn't want to
A
go
lot of
through
people
it.
like those sequences. I don't understand why, but, sure. Is there anything that would make you put the game down as far as pacing is concerned? I mean, you get so bored with the game. Just,
Mostly it's when I got my ass handed to me last time I tried to play. I would just stop playing. I'm like, all right, well, fuck
so that's
this game.
the only reason you would stop the game?
No, I did find myself... Because what I'll do is I won't necessarily binge play, but I'll play up until I don't want to play anymore each day. And the Laguna parts were generally those times where I'd get to the Laguna thing and I'm like...
A natural stopping
now?
point.
Now? I'm like, nah, not right now. Tomorrow. So I kind of agree with you. It's nothing to make me not want to play the game. The only thing that makes me truly not want to play the game is when I can't get past a part. But I'll just persist endlessly and like do the same thing over and over again. Just try different variants, just slightly.
And then his second part of the question is what part of the game had the best pacing? So what... And I'm going to reinterpret this. Like, what part of the game could you just not stop playing because it was, you were going for it? I guess because of the pacing of the game. Or was there any for you, Caleb Craig?
No, there wasn't anything that I had to, like, keep doing other than fight Ultimecia.
Okay. Twice.
Well, once it started picking up at the end of Disc 3, I didn't want to put the game down. I really didn't.
Okay.
I wanted to beat it. I was like, God, I'm really loving this right now. I didn't want to go to bed to go to work the next day to, 10 hours later, finally get to play this damn game. So I would say right when it started getting really good to me is when I didn't want to leave it alone.
I'd say I'm in the same boat as Caleb Schweiss, except that I was able to leave it alone once I finally got on the Ragnarok before I have to do the color puzzle with the one enemies. But other than that, going to end game, don't want to put it down. I think most Final Fantasies are like that for me, though. Of course, I am a binge player. I don't play a little bit per day. I like pick one day of the week and I play like 8 hours that one day. So, in this case, I played Final Fantasy. I probably had like 5 days of actually playing the game. So, I don't know. I'm in a different camp. There are parts of the game that drag, but then again, I have kind of this, attitude where I'm like, get to the end as quick as possible. So I feel like I'm in a different camp as far as pacing goes. I can tell when something's when dragging and I'm like, oh God, I'm not enjoying this at all. But then, my own internal drive is making me finish the game. And then, of course, we have one question from Shinru here, which are our last question.
All right, so he says, we seriously need more FF final dungeons to be like this. FF3 had an epic final dungeon, as you guys know. Laughs. Yes.
Bastard.
FF5 had a great final dungeon area, lots of bosses, and it felt like a real journey to the void.
That's true. It was kind of like this crazy, kind of like you're going from place to place almost.
That's what I really liked about 3 and 4s also.
4's was pretty sweet.
3's, the final fights were fun. 6 was pretty atmospheric. 7 was atmospheric and felt like a trek to the live stream part of the planet's core.
So that's kind of what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is what it was. Then we have FF8, which was arguably one of the best. Maybe not as loved or iconic as, say, FF7's final dungeon, but FF8 really nailed it for the final dungeon area. Great music, puzzles, exploration, rooms, and unique enemies and bosses. Exciting final boss.
I agree.
All made for a great dungeon. What are your thoughts on the final dungeon in FF8, and do you think it's one of the best in the FF series? Would you like to see a return for more final dungeons like this in future games?
I would say yes. It was a really good final dungeon. I mean, like, one of the best things about 8 is that it was practically a boss rush game, and that's basically what the final dungeon was. Yeah, like in
unlocking your shit.
and unlocking the abilities, like choosing which ones you wanted to get made it for an interesting way to go.
That fucking painting puzzle. God damn. The clock. Stupid.
Caleb didn't like the one with the piano. Where you have to press all the buttons at the exact same time to open the door.
I didn't even do that one.
I didn't either. I was like, "Okay, fuck that guy. I'm just gonna leave him."
There was one that was like, I didn't leave on I think the GF one. Like, I didn't need it. And one of the other abilities where I'm like, I don't need it for the final fight.
Yeah,
I went on without it.
I figured out one of the puzzles, like
one of the final bosses is the hardest. One of the bosses in that area is the hardest in the game. It's like a secret one, and you have to have max HP in order to beat it. So it was like, I'm not even trying it. So that was another one I skipped. I'm not sure which of the bosses in that area I skipped, but that one and the Omega whatever. So as far as final dungeons go, this one is certainly unique, and I think the gothic feel to the dungeon is something cool, as we've said before. I agree with Shinru. The music in this area is pretty cool.
It was pretty sweet.
And the final boss, Ultimecia, is an epic final boss. The 4-part brutal.
It is a very brutal fight.
Final fight. Even if you're cheating the shit out of the game, she is decently difficult.
Yeah, I tried replaying the last boss with like all the cheats that 8 allows, and it was still disgusting.
I say the comparison, though, is that I didn't have to restart 6s. I mean, I beat them in one try. Didn't have to restart 7s. Beat them in one try. Didn't have to restart 4. Beat them in one try. I guess Ultimecia is one of the harder final bosses.
She definitely is. I think it's part of that reason is Griever. The ability to just wipe away one of your magic's junction to one of your stats. If he fucks over your guy who has like
he did that for me.
Your strength junction, it is over for you.
He took my Ultima from Squall.
Yeah, he wiped away Caleb's like HP, so they only had like 1,000 each.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Final dungeon. I mean, where do you rank this final dungeon as far as what we've played so far? Is there a final dungeon that's better than this? I hate 3s. I think that the fact that there's no save point before this giant hallway really pisses me off.
Well, yeah, with 3, I thought 3s was really fun. Other than that, I mean,
I wish there was a save point right before.
I really thought the battles were really cool, where you like go in and you're like, lend me your power, and you fight this beast, and it like gives you his sword. I thought that was awesome. But 8's is amazing. 8's was really good. I mean, there were parts that, like I think the chandelier that falls under your weight, I think you have to run across that with the girls, and I never did that one. You have to have
one person like pull a lever and then the other party go up at the top.
Yeah,
it doesn't really matter which party you pick, but that's the only part where the parties actually have to split in order for you to do something as far as the ones that I've fought.
No, you have to split it in a specific way, too.
Yeah.
You have to have like one team on the elevators has to be the chicks, and the other half has to be the dudes, and the dudes are like weighing them down so the chicks can go up to go get the key.
He's talking about
how to use that.
Yeah, that's how you're supposed to do it.
Yeah, we had to look it up because we tried for forever to like figure out how to do it.
I don't remember that at all. Maybe it was the one boss that I didn't fight.
Yeah. So I mean, I thought it was
one of the two.
It was pretty sweet. The style, the artwork for the area was awesome. The music was sweet too. It was a good track for that area. So I was okay running around here in the same track trying to find these fucking bosses. Mm-hmm. And I did think it was a little brutal that they told me I had my magic and my items back when really I didn't, as if I wanted to live. But I went back and I was like, all right, I have to find one more of these assholes to kill, and I did. He was tough, but I killed him. Okay. And I enjoyed it. Also with Ultimecia, the reason why she is hard, and I restarted like 20 times. I didn't die. I tried to get my perfect party, but I didn't. And I kept restarting, and I kept restarting, and I kept restarting.
For those who haven't made it to the end game of Final Fantasy VIII, the final fight, it takes all 6 of your characters, I mean, if you're never going to evenly junction all 6 of your characters.
No.
There are certain magics. You're going to have like 2 or 3 that are really strong, and then the rest are going to be weak as shit. So you're going to have 3 random characters right at the beginning of the thing, and if the character's dead for more than like 2 turns or something,
it's like 3, I think.
they're taken away.
Yeah,
completely.
they just die in time compression.
You can't have them again.
Well, and what I ended up doing was I got 2 of the members. I think it was Quistis and
Zell?
no, Squall.
Oh, was it Squall?
Yeah, if it was Zell,
I thought you were
no
missing.
way. If without Squall, there's no way I was going to go through that fight. And what I did was I refined the Bahamut card, and it gave me 100 mega elixirs.
You use the mega elixirs over and over again.
I
I used mega elixirs once in the final battle.
The Griever time is the only time you have to do it. I used it right before Griever. I spammed it every single second though, just to make sure that I had
The
it.
scariest noise is when the music's like, and like the screen starts to shake. You're like, no!
Yeah, it
And then
does
he
a
does that
lot.
like ridiculous
Holy
attack.
shit! It's like if you have less than 6k, you're dead.
Well, here's the thing. I probably restarted that battle like 6 times and only tried to fight him about 3, and I beat him on the 3rd one. I figured out, because I had 2 strong characters. It was Zell and Squall. They had like all the good magic. I had them take all the magic from all the other characters, at least what they could. And so I made Squall my damage. So I put everything on his attack, and then I made Zell my shield.
Your tank.
Yeah, he was my tank, so I put him to like HP Junction. I gave him brothers, with all the HP bonuses, and so he just kept reviving Squall as soon as possible, and like kept putting protection and stuff on him, and that's how I finally like beat the game. And those hero drinks, you get 2 hero drinks in the game from bosses in the game, and they make you invincible for a little while. And so on that final fight, when she's taking your health down to 1, and then it occasionally does like another attack, I would just put Hero Drink on Squall, always, and have Zell just keep like triple casting Kiraga on himself, and then I have Squall just keep redoing Renzouk, and I did Hero Drinks twice and used them on her.
That's a good tactic.
So yeah, that's what it took to beat the game the first time, because I think I was like level 14, but I didn't draw as much magic as I should have the first time I played this game, so the Ultimecia was extremely hard.
Yeah.
It took me like 20 times to like beat her. Certainly the hard part about that battle is, or one of the hard parts about that battle is getting the characters that you want.
Yeah.
That and Griever.
And at the end,
Griever's brutal.
Yeah, and at
Griever
the
is
end,
pretty
I just
brutal.
accepted 2 of them, and then the 3rd one would just kept going into time compression, and then finally, in the last portion of the final fight, the 4th tier of the fight, the last person died. The one person, Zell came in, or no, Quistis came in, and then I did the final blow.
Nice.
And I wasn't messing around with the limits. When they brought me down to 1 HP, I used a Mega Elixir. I was like, fuck this. I'm not risking anything here.
Wow,
I'm just going to basic attack for 7,000.
He had 100 mega elixirs to just toss around, so might as well.
The hard, as soon as I finally got past Griever, it was easy.
It was. I didn't have to do that. I could have killed her
Griever
faster.
was the one who kept killing me, and then I did all the HP on Zell, and then Zell was able to make it through just fine.
Yeah.
You give Zell Shell in that fight, and he'll make it through with a large amount of HP. He'll
Nice.
make it through just fine. And Zell would cast Shell on Squall, so that shit wouldn't do as much damage to him either. So that's what I
Griever's
did.
he's the problem in that fight.
Yeah.
Outside of him,
Once
you
she
can
like
probably-
melds with Griever, just took 1 Rinzauken, took care of that one, and then like the form after that has a lot of HP, but she doesn't do that much damage very often.
No, it's like every 5 turns
It's
that
far
she does that
between,
one
because
move.
at that point, I think the game is telling you to just kill her,
Yeah.
even though she can kill you.
She can.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I didn't die once I got past Griever.
so
It was a great dungeon.
it was a great dungeon. It was certainly memorable. I think it was more memorable than Sevens.
Yeah.
Sevens, I just kind of walked to the end.
I spent a lot of
I
time
kinda-
in
My last
Sevens.
playthrough.
I kind of like that. I think that a favorite kind of dungeon for me would be like there's nothing in the last dungeon. Like you have like the dungeon before be like really enemy laden and stuff. You like fight through all that, and then the last dungeon you just kind of like walk through it. Like there's a calmness right before you fight the final boss. Just like walk right up to him, and
That's
then
how
like
13's
and then like an epic
walk up to him.
confrontation.
That's kind of...
I think that's how it should be, and it sort of felt that way in 7, but again, not really, because
There's
there was
few Final Fantasies that have short final dungeon. I think 12's was pretty short, wasn't it? Don't you just kind of go in there? It's like one hallway.
No, there's like a giant thing where you have to go fight the Judge Gabranth. Remember that?
Wow, don't remember that.
You'll
been a
know.
long
But
Well, what am I thinking of? 10s wasn't very long. You just kind of get into Sin and then walk to your save point, and it wasn't that bad, I remember.
Jacked for me is pretty brutal.
Well, the final boss, but I'm talking about final dungeon.
Oh yeah, the final dungeon's fine.
Inside of Sin, whatever. I think the 7 dungeon is very short too.
Yeah,
in comparison,
I spent
to
a lot of time in
the
it
previous games
to max out everything.
6 was sick.
Yes,
the 3-party split. Of course, we talked about that a lot in the Final Fantasy VI review. That was brutal.
It was.
And 3's was brutal too. 4's was brutal for you, with all like the extra shit, and it's a long dungeon too. But there is at least a save point in that one, at least midway through it. 3's was regrettable. 2's was also extremely long and scary.
2's was really scary,
but it was a cool dungeon
in the very beginning part, and then the second part.
But the cool dungeon, like it's Jade Passage, and then it's like the castle area or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that area is cool looking.
Yeah.
So it's one of they all have great dungeons as far as
the castle
except
part.
for maybe 10s.
I remember when I got through the Jade Passage though, and I was like, "Good God, the next area is going to be so horrendous," and then it wasn't. Like Jade Passage was like brutal, and then the next one was
totally
like
opposite. I was able to make it through Jade Passage, and then I had to keep doing memo saves every like 5 feet for the next
really
area. Yeah,
it got easier.
Caleb was in the room for it. It was sick.
I watched it. It was funny.
It was a hard area. Though.
Yeah.
It's sickeningly difficult.
Yeah.
And 8, you didn't have a random battle, so we don't know.
Okay, guys, any final thoughts before we end the episode? This long episode that I'm sure is going to be split into 2 parts for our audience who already knows this.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us for our review of Final Fantasy VIII. Remember to go onto our forums, share what you thought about Final Fantasy VIII, and most especially what you thought about Final Fantasy IX so that we can talk about it when we get there, hopefully within a month. Now, I do want to announce one little thing. I'm going to put up a special little area of the forums for everybody to kind of take a picture of their Final Fantasy collection and share it. I think it'd be kind of cool to see everybody's Final Fantasy collection on the forums. And if you're not a member of the forums, join the forums. It's easy. It's not like one of those forums where you have to put out like a 20-part questionnaire in order to join the forum. This is a very nice forum. Plus, you can just join as a guest if you just want to kind of be in part of the conversation, or if you just want to ask a question, that's totally fine. Okay, also make sure to support us on Patreon. Follow us on Twitter at UFF Podcast, and give us an iTunes review. We didn't have any new iTunes reviews today. I think there was a new rating posted, and perhaps a review that went with it, but it didn't show up. So we'll be reading that next week.
Unless, of course, it was just a rating.
Unless it was just a rating.
And then, thank you.
But thank you anyway for the rating. We will see you guys next week with some news.
Yeah, enjoy the grind.
This has been another production of Ultima Final Fantasy, the Ultimate Final Fantasy Podcast. The show was produced by Joseph DeGollier and Caleb Schweiss, with music and editing by Joseph DeGollier, parodies and clips from their respective authors, of course. You can get all of our episodes as well as our Let's Plays at ultimafinalfantasy.com. You can also contact us on Twitter at UFF Podcast, as well as our contact page on our website. Be sure to subscribe and review our podcast. Your reviews may get read on the show, and look forward to the next episode of Ultima Final Fantasy, the Ultimate Final Fantasy Podcast.